We should probably talk a little bit about ourselves first.
Okay. Is there anything you think we really need to make sure we get in there?
No.
Except that we've parked this domain for like 3 years and haven't done anything with it?
Yeah, I think we should talk about all of the great articles and other content.
Be sure to read our fantastic content at Due for a Win.
You actually did post an article there for the first time in, like 2 years?
I did?
A couple months ago?
It's possible. Did we also park Due for a Win Twitter?
Yes, I am the proud owner of Due for a Win Twitter.
Oh, awesome. So get all our updates.
I actually think that we should start the podcast like a minute and a half ago.
Hello and welcome to the Due for a Win podcast. We're going to talk about the gambling industry, gambling in general, and mainly focus on Atlantic City since we're over here on the East Coast. My name is Craig Stone. I live in New Jersey. With me is Kyle Askin. He is in Maryland. So this is our first episode. Thank you for listening. We're going to talk about a little bit about our most recent trip to Atlantic City, some of the latest news with Showboat and Revel, and a more macro view at some of the monthly revenues. So, Kyle, go ahead and introduce yourself.
That was pretty enlightening. I don't know what I can say to add on to that. Anyway, as Craig said, I'm Kyle. I started going to Atlantic City when I turned 21, which was in 2004. Actually, probably 2005. Me and a bunch of our mutual friends, me and Craig's, would go up all the time, stay in the Atlantic City Hilton for the most part because they comped well, even if you were 21 and betting $5 at the table.
Which is really the beauty of Atlantic City, right? That you can still get comped if you're betting next to nothing, or you could, a few years ago.
With a lot of the closures that have happened, I don't know if it's quite that way. I mean, we were getting comps in the summertime on the weekends.
Yeah, no,
at the Hilton,
that's not happening.
Which was pretty sweet. And, I mean, my first couple trips to Vegas were also in the Las Vegas Hilton from my Atlantic City Hilton, betting $5 at a time for a couple hours.
Nice. So that was before I started going. I didn't start going until I moved to New York away from you guys, and so I started going in, I think my first trip was January 2010. I say I think, like I don't have a spreadsheet that lists all this stuff. So my first trip was definitely January 2010. We've gone, 3 or 4 times a year since then, and just in the interim obsessed about what's going on with the casinos, what's opening, what's closing, what's the deal with Caesars website and why our comps don't work, and that kind of stuff. So hopefully we'll bring some of that to you, and it'll be interesting to listen to. So do you want to go ahead and start with a look at these monthly revenues for October that just came out?
Sure. I mean, we don't have to talk necessarily about October, I don't think.
Just general.
Anything was too interesting. The most interesting point, I think, was probably for the first time ever, the Taj was the worst performing casino in Atlantic City, which is pretty shocking, and it's been a pretty big downfall for them for a long time. And I checked back, for 20 years. I mean, for a long time, they were the best performing casino in Atlantic City until basically the Borgata opened in 2003.
Right, so, I mean, when you announce that you're going to close and you send out that notice to your employees saying you're going to close, and then you keep pushing it back, it's almost like your customers get wind of that and they say, well, I'm going to go someplace else where my comps are actually worth something. Right? I mean, that happens. All the casinos that have closed have seen these huge drops in their revenue. So I don't think that's too surprising. Except that there's no real indication that it's going to close.
Right. The thing with the Taj is it's been drawn out. I mean, they were going to close at the end of last year, and it's been like a zombie for a year. I mean, it's been like a zombie for probably longer than a year. But like you said, it is something we've seen with, the Atlantic Club and with the Showboat and with the Revel. I mean, just the sharp drop right before they actually closed.
Well, Revel never had revenue to begin with, but
that's true.
Taj allegedly was nice at one point, right? I mean, I've never spent any real time in there, but
yeah, unfortunately for me, I think it's a little bit before my time even, but like I said, I mean, I've gone back, and it was the best performing casino in Atlantic City for all of the 90s and the beginning of the 2000s as well.
And it was the set
presumably it was nice.
For Nicolas Cage's Snake Eyes. That terrible, boxing movie.
When was Rounders filmed? Because it had a prominent role in that as well.
It's
probably about the right time. It's probably the late 90s, right?
Yeah, so there was that, and then there was another
1998, according to IMDb.
Awful,
so yeah, perfect.
Katherine Heigl movie that ended up in Atlantic City at the Taj. So the Taj is featured a lot. It kind of looks like a movie set if you just left it there for 20 years and didn't do anything to it. So that's not too surprising.
Right.
Yeah, it looks like it should be nice. It's just you go inside and it's not nice.
Yeah, it's bad.
But
it's just I don't know. Like I said, the Taj is actually beyond the Golden Nugget, which used to be Trump Marina, which, as you know, the first time I ever went was our last trip. The Taj was the last casino I actually stepped foot in Atlantic City. It wasn't until a couple years ago that I actually went inside of it. So I'm sure it was nice at some point, but every time I've been in it, it's been a complete dump. So it's not been a place I've wanted to play or be in.
Yeah, and I wanted to check it out just because I knew that history of it, and I went in and just walked through it and felt like, wow, there's nothing from here. I'm not a big poker player and it has a big poker room, so outside of that, it just kind of has the standard stuff. There's the scores there now, which I guess they're excited about, but that's not really not my thing either. And then especially when you add in the required pasties, not that I'd go anyway, but it just there's not much there for me. When I look at the revenue, the other thing that I find interesting is that I don't know why I still find it interesting, but Borg just rakes every month. 57 million again this month. They cracked 70 in August, 71, which I looked back, 71 in August and July, and when they hit 71 in July, I looked back as far back as I can find, which is only through 2008, and that was the highest they've grossed in any month. So, 2008 obviously is after whatever the recession hit, so that's not a great point to start with. I'd like to see 2006, early 2007, but for them to be hitting $71 million where everybody else is, struggling. If anybody else hits 20, you're like, 20, okay, that's pretty good. Harrah's is usually in the high 20s and Caesars is in the low 20s. But, if Trop hits 20, or especially if Resorts hits 20, which I don't think ever happens. I think Golden Nugget hit 20 once, and I was like thinking, whoa, congratulations on getting to that $20 million club. But Borg is over 50 even off months. They just, can do no wrong, it seems like.
So, like you said, they don't release the monthly. I don't think there's any monthly results from before 2008, but I do have the annual results in front of me. And Borg's best year ever was 2007. And 2006 and 2008 were just a little bit worse than that. So it probably was pretty close to this being the height of them, if that's what you say. So I actually have a quiz question for you, since I've got the 90s open.
Oh, sure.
And like I said, so the best grossing casino every single year from 1990 to 1999 was the Trump Taj Mahal. Can you guess which the worst grossing casino was in every single year? It was the same for every year.
It's got to be the Trump Marina, right?
No, but I think it wasn't second to last every year, but it was down there every year.
Oh, wow. Resorts?
I'll give you a hint. It's not a casino that is open anymore.
Oh, Atlantic Club Hilton ACH.
No.
What? Okay, just tell me.
The Claridge.
Well, that barely counts, though, because it got, enveloped into Bally's.
Yeah, it didn't happen until 2002 or 2003.
See, I didn't go until 2010. I mean, you
Right.
weren't going in
No,
2002 or
I wasn't going
2003.
back then because I was, 18.
Yeah, the Claridge. We stayed in the Claridge. It was
awful.
horrific.
Yes.
It was nightmare fuel.
It was pretty terrible.
Allegedly, it's revamped. It's nice. There's no casino in it. It's got an art gallery, which is supposed to be nice.
Unless they've done a lot of work, I'm sure it's still a dump. I mean, not being connected to the casino will probably help with the patronage, I'll say, but
Yeah,
I don't think you could make that place nice without really putting more money than anyone should be putting into a hotel in Atlantic City.
yeah. I have no interest in giving it a shot.
No. Well, did you tell me that you're planning on hopefully trying to go down and stay in the Dennis Tower?
Yeah, so my next
couple
trip, my wife and I, it'll be our 5th wedding anniversary. So 2 of our 4 so far, we've gone to Atlantic City and, done the comped room thing, and I'll go, and she's not a gambler, so basically I spend all year building up my comps, go for a free weekend, don't gamble at all. Caesars doesn't tend to like that, so I end up having to spend the next year building up my comps again, so we'll probably do that again. Now we have an 8-month-old, and so I probably won't really need or have the opportunity to build up my comps for the 6th anniversary, but for now we're going to take it. So I have a room booked in the Dennis Tower. It's a Dennis luxury room, which apparently is one of the rooms that's like right around Harry's Oyster Bar that overlooks the courtyard, which I'm excited to go to Harry's Oyster Bar again. And it's supposed to be nicer than the Bally's rooms. The Bally's Tower rooms in that big main tower are really out of date. And when I first booked it, actually, they had pictures of renovated rooms in that Bally's Tower, which have since been removed. And I was really confused because I was like, these rooms look really nice. And that's not at all what I've heard about those towers. But I called up, thankfully, on our friend Andy, who's a big hotel geek, called up and asked for his advice. And he said, just call the front desk. They'll tell you, what rooms have been updated. They should have that information on hand. And I called, and they were like, yeah, Dennis Tower is like the only tower that's actually renovated. And, if you're looking to stay in the Bally's Tower, those rooms aren't going to be done. So that was good to know. So we'll see how it goes. I'm still holding out hopes that I'll get a Caesars room instead, and just swap those reservations. But for now, the only rooms that Caesars has been offering me are those atrium rooms that overlook the lobby. And I don't really want to be in one of the old, crappy, tiny rooms that overlooks the sad Caesar statue and
Hey, man.
little cafe and that.
And that sweet cafe?
Yeah, that's not a very romantic hotel room for your anniversary, I gotta say. Especially our first weekend away from the baby.
Hey, man, you can see that they opened the brand new Gordon Ramsay restaurant
That's true.
there, right?
And I've got some rewards credits I plan to use at that Gordon Ramsay.
So I have another quiz question for you.
Okay.
Since I'm looking at the data. So, like I said, Borgata opened in 2003, and in 2005 they were the largest grossing casino in Atlantic City. And like I said, the Trump Taj was the highest grossing casino all through the 90s, and until 2002 was their last year as the top grossing casino. So which casino was the top grossing casino in 2003 and 2004, and then second place behind the Borg until 2008?
I mean, I guess. Well, Harrah's I know is always second now, but I think Harrah's was really crappy back then. I think they only renovated it because Borg came in. So I'm gonna guess Caesars.
It is not Caesars.
And am I wrong about Harrah's then?
It is not Harrah's.
I mean, it can't be Trop.
It is not Trop.
Okay, I'm stumped again. You've got me twice.
Bally's.
Oh man, it's not terribly surprising, but it's a little.
The thing with
sad.
Bally's is it's humongous,
big.
right? They've got a ton of game, space.
Is it bigger game space wise than Caesars though?
I would think so, especially if you count what is now the Wild Wild West.
Oh, right. That's a good point.
I don't know if that was around back then though. I'm not 100%.
I think it must have been.
It's a lot of game space, though. Well, Caesars, it's spread over 2 floors.
Right. Bally's entirely contained, in that lower floor. Right.
Right, pretty much, other than, the poker room and the pony room upstairs.
Yeah, Wild Wild West opened in 1997.
Okay, so yes, Wild Wild West was open. So yeah, it's significantly larger than Caesars, I will say, absolutely.
So, should we just segue into our trip report from there, since I want to talk so much about Wild Wild West?
Yeah, we can do that.
So, this is, there's no way to say this that makes it sound good, but, one of my favorite places in the world is the Bally's bus terminal. Because the first time I ever went, and probably, half the times I've gone to Atlantic City, I've taken the bus from Port Authority in New York, the whatever it is, $30-something bus, where they give you $25 slot credit. You get off in Bally's, and it's not nice, but, just, there's these chandeliers that are remind you of a casino, and you just walk in, and you're going to the casino, and you've got a whole trip ahead of you, and it's exciting. I got my $25 slot voucher in my hand. So the very first time I went, we spent a lot of time in that Caesars Bally's Wild Wild West complex. So I have a very special place in my heart for Wild Wild West, especially because it's because I really like places that are inside but look like outside. So now I've admitted that I both like the Bally's bus terminal and fake facades inside, so I should probably just sign off.
I know, that's why your 2 favorite casinos in Vegas are Paris and New York, right?
I like the Paris casino floor a lot. I've heard not good things about the rooms. I don't mind New York. I don't hate it as much as you do. But so Wild Wild West, so we went in August because you were about to have a kid who you now have a 1-month-old. I'm just going to put your personal business out there. So if you're crying on either end, that's fine.
It could be either.
Yeah, so we went. We did not stay in Bally's. Where did we stay? Oh, we stayed at Harris. But we did go walk around the newly renovated Wild Wild West. So, in 1997, I don't know if you saw the Wild Wild West when it had animatronic cowboys and, girls on wagons with guns, and they did shows, and it was crazy. I never saw any of that. I missed it all. So were you ever there when it was just decked out robotics?
Not that I remember. So the first, I'll say, many times we went, until basically I started going with you, our trips were more or less confined to the Hilton, the Trop, and the Borg. And those were the 3 places we really spent any amount of time in at all. And there are a few other casinos that I went in during those times, but I didn't really pay attention to them or spend a lot of time in them.
So I yearn for this. I looked up pictures. I spent probably 45 minutes just looking at pictures of these old animatronics and reading as people say that they're, outdated and sketchy and not good. And I'm just like, oh, I wish they would bring it back. Except, well, I remember when I first went, the only remnant really, I mean, they still had all the facades and everything, but that when you walked in off the boardwalk, there was a sort of river kind of thing that ended up at this little lake, and there was a dude in the middle who I guess used to be a prospector. He was on his knee and he had a pan and he was sifting for gold, and he had a donkey, and both him and the donkey did some kind of animatronic show. It sounds really bad, but so when I went, they had replaced him with just this dude who was standing up and the donkey. And the first time I went, he worked, he did some stuff. He was a little creepy. And then I think the second time I went, he was just slouched, his head was just slouched and the donkey's head was slouched, and it was depressing and they were not working. And then the attempt to fix them was not actually to fix them, it was just to shove a rod up the dude's shirt in the back and duct tape around his neck to hold his head up, and that was way, way worse than just having it off. So they've gotten rid of that completely. And even if they had just gotten rid of the animatronics and had the little lake and the river, it would have been nicer than what it is now. So now it's just like flat with this fake sort of textured floor, and it's just empty, and there's a stage at one end of it, and like 3 gaming tables at the other end, like a couple of blackjack tables, I think, and that's it. And those blackjack tables are like the most depressing tables in Atlantic City, I think, which is saying something. And then next to that, so that's right by the bar, where you get your whatever $3 beers and the beer pong tables. And then behind that used to be all the table games, which was a lively area and a fun place to play table games. And now that's just dead empty, right? So you walk through this curved sort of long walkway under these wooden sort of structure overhang things where all the tables used to be under. Like they used to have $1 blackjack, which was a terrible game because you had to ante a quarter. But you have to make this long walk to get to the poker room, which is now huge and spread out among where all the video poker machines used to be back there. So it's just got this really weird vibe of like Caesars just doesn't know what to do with the space and has not even filled it. And the poker room, like there's one area that looks like it should be a poker room, and then there's just what looks like random poker tables everywhere, and then there's just emptiness and sadness, and then some beer pong tables, and like 3 gaming tables, and a stage and an empty floor, and it just made me really sad the last time we were there for some reason. And nobody should really have fond memories probably of the Wild Wild West, but it definitely, it definitely made me disappointed to see it go that direction and kind of not have any plan for all that space.
I mean, so just so you know, you're not alone. Every time I talk to my stepdad about Atlantic City, he always says that his favorite place to gamble was always the Wild Wild West, and he was bummed when they took all the table games out. But so you know what the plan was when they shut down all those table games, right? They were going to put a bunch of retail in there,
right? Which is exactly what they need with the pier
with
dying,
the dumpster fire that the pier is, right? So then they wisely decided that maybe that's not a great idea, which is why we have what we have now, which is just this big space with nothing in it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I was trying to think what could they even do. It's because it's a lot of space. I mean, it's
big.
And we were there in an August weekend, peak weekend, and really, they've gotten rid of a lot of the slot machines and almost all the video poker machines out of that casino also. So it looks really sparse. You come down that escalator from Caesars to Wild Wild West when you're doing that walk through to Bally's, and it looks much emptier than it has in the past. So I was trying to think, could you put like a giant comp bar there, kind of like the Long Bar at the D in Las Vegas? But I don't think, comp bars aren't really a thing in Atlantic City, really, right? Like, where is there even? There's one at Borgata, but I don't think any of the Caesars casinos. I think there's a lounge in Harrah's that has video poker machines, and I think that's about it.
Do they? In what, Exhibition in Harrah's? Is that what you're talking about?
Not Exhibition.
The circle one in the middle?
No, the one that's over by the restaurants.
Okay. Near the burger.
Yeah, right between
near Bill's Burger or back near like the front desk and those restaurants?
No, not the one near the front desk. They redid.
They made it the whiskey bar.
The bar, yeah, like the bar with no name, which looks really nice. And kind of looks way classier than most other things in Harrah's, which we can actually, let's talk about Harrah's now since we stayed at Harrah's. So, we were in Harrah's for 2 nights. It's obviously a pretty clubby scene there. So what were your impressions of your room in Harrah's and sort of the experience? I know you really like Harrah's Las Vegas.
That is definitely true.
How does Harrah's Atlantic City hold up?
So, about the rooms, I think I have to say that my room was far, far nicer than yours. So, That is a definite plus. So, If you can, staying in the waterfront tower is definitely a better choice than staying in whatever shitty tower that the rest of my friends were staying in.
The Harbor Tower. We had 2 rooms.
The Harbor Tower. Yeah.
And the talk of the Harbor Tower was every time you got on the elevator, everybody was talking about how the showers wouldn't drain at all. So it was not just us. It was on every floor. So our friend Dave actually complained to Harrah's on Twitter, which is, if you know Dave, is not surprising, and it worked out. He got $75 of rewards credits for complaining. So, if you have an issue at Harrah's or any Caesars Casino, jump on the Twitter and hit them up, because maybe they'll try to buy you off. But yeah, it was a little gross. The second day, I actually had to take a shower standing outside of the shower. Like, I basically just reached a limb in and rinsed it off, and then reached another limb in and rinsed it. It was that bad. I mean, 2 minutes in, and it was ankle deep. It just wouldn't drain at all.
That is pretty foul. I do have to say that my room had none of these problems, and it was very, very nice.
Yeah,
we were down at the very end of the hall, almost. It's at the very end is usually like a suite or something, but we were the first door that wasn't actually on the end of the hall, so we weren't the corner room, but we were the room next to it.
Yeah, my wife was totally grossed out by this description. So your room was not a suite, though.
No, it wasn't a suite. It was just a normal 2-bedroom room.
But still,
or 2-bed room.
But still a nice room.
It was nice. Yeah.
We stayed there maybe 3 years ago, my wife and I, when we went for our anniversary, and they put us in a huge suite because our anniversary is in January. So,
right.
If you're staying for one night in January, you're going to get upgraded usually. And we were in a huge room, and it was super nice, that I think was probably also in the waterfront tower. But this time, the room looked fine, I guess. Like, it looked okay. It was kind of a standard room. The walls are paper thin, and the shower thing was just really gross, which is disappointing because the casino itself, I really like the casino itself. I like that lobby bar that they redid, the bar with no name, that is actually named #bar with no name. That is what they're calling it. Like, that's on the Harrah's Resort.
It actually has hashtag in the name?
It is a pound sign. #bar with no name. And then the Eden Lounge is the one that has the video poker, and that's kind of where, like, middle-aged people go to dance at instead of the pool after dark. And then there's the pool after dark, which is where all the young people go, which makes Harrah's an interesting place to go by itself, right? And so we spent some time just kind of hanging out, eating donuts or whatever, and drinking boozy frozen drinks over by the pool after dark, because they replaced what used to be, what was it, like Saka Subs?
Saka Subs, man.
Yeah, they replaced.
Never forget.
That was Saka Subs and a couple other chain type places.
Yeah, it had a Philadelphia Pretzel Factory
right.
and a couple other things.
And so they replaced those with, like, what appears to be house, like their own stuff. It doesn't appear to be branded really in any way, right?
Yep.
So there's like a pizza joint where the pizza was like fine, and then boozy drinks where you can buy that Drink AC mug for $10 and get it refilled.
Do AC mugs,
yeah,
Greg?
No, it says Drink AC.
Is it Drink AC?
Yeah. And that's dangerous. So what? 3 cocktails, I think, and you got dared to do all 3.
And unfortunately, I mean, I would have done it, except the second day when I was going to do it, I felt like complete ass. I came down with some sort of cold or something.
And we also spent most of the day at Borgata and Golden Nugget.
Golden Nugget, yes.
Did not end up at Harrah's all that much, so.
Right.
Which maybe wasn't the worst thing after drinking a couple of those the night before.
Right.
Like, I couldn't even eat my Bill's Burger that night.
Yeah, you were in pretty rough shape, but, I mean, you were in rough shape in every one of our gambling trips, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I have some kind of stress reaction on the last day of trips. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I was just legitimately sick, but,
so
I powered through.
Anything else about Harrah's worth mentioning?
They put in a Pai Gow tile stable, finally. They didn't have one for a long time, but this was the first time I've been that they had one in, which is great.
They had the Wonka slots. There was always a wait for it.
I know that you and Andy hit up a lot of Wonka slots.
Yeah,
on that
so
trip.
the legendary Wonka slots from other much more famous podcasts such as Vegas Tripping and 500 by Midnight. I sought them out. Before the trip, I even looked up where they were, and I don't know if the ones at the Cosmo are just better or looser. I know that they have the ability to change that. But for us, everybody who played, it was basically you put your $20 in and then you stand up 2 minutes later and leave with nothing. We were just getting decimated by the Wonka slots, and yet I was still like, nah, man, I've heard good things. I'm going to put another $20 in, and that didn't work out at all. It's shocking how that goes. So that was Harrah's. We talked about Wild Wild West. We also made the trip to Golden Nugget for the first time.
Yeah, it was the first time I've ever been. Like I said before, Trump Marina was the last casino in Atlantic City that I'd never been to, which is a little surprising considering the amount of time I've spent in Harrah's and to a much greater extent Borgata. I mean, it's right around the corner, but I guess it's not that surprising because it's not right next to it. I mean, the walk's a little bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
and
it's not.
Why would I drive to Golden Nugget if I'm already at Borgata?
Right, so...
Or Trump Marina back in the days.
So Golden Nugget, I mean, their sort of thing is that they're high-end, right? Like, their downtown casino in Vegas is the high-end casino in downtown Vegas. And
in downtown Vegas.
Right. And, I mean, it's supposed to be the closest thing to a strip experience in downtown. And
right, which is not a strip experience at all, but that's fine.
So, here, they've clearly renovated. They've clearly spent money on renovation. And, I feel like sort of the little things look nice, right? Like on the casino floor, the sort of things on the wall look nice, and I don't know, it feels like it should be nicer than it actually is.
Right, so, going in, it's something that me and Craig have talked about for a couple trips, because both of us have never been there, and it's the last casino that I think both of us have ever or needed to go to in Atlantic City. And so we were excited to go, and that plus, I mean, I think there's a lot of good press or a lot of buzz going around about Golden Nugget. I think probably mostly from locals or people who live closer to Atlantic City than we do.
And they're
I think after Atlantic Club closed, which was the locals casino before, I think a lot of those people ended up moving over to Golden Nugget.
Yeah, and their social media does a great job of making it look awesome. I mean, their Twitter, more than anything, makes me think, like, man, I need to get to Atlantic City. I mean, lots of things make me think that, but their Twitter is very good for that.
Right. So anyway, there was a lot of, I mean, I think the issue probably was that our expectations were too high. I mean, like I said, for one thing, I was feeling like crap, but, was it everything that I hoped it was going to be? No. I mean, it was perfectly fine as a casino, and I'm sure the rooms are also perfectly fine, but, is it somewhere that I'm going to feel like I need to go next time I go to Atlantic City? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, at some point there's just not much you can do about, like, 12-foot ceilings in the casino, right? Like, unless you're just gutting the place, it felt really dark in there. And just an incredibly confusing casino floor where you kind of... There's like bars in the middle of it and just things that you can't see around, and so you feel like you sort of turn a corner and then you're looking for something and you end up back at the same bar that you were at before. It's kind of confusing in that way.
I don't know. You think that's true, though? I think every casino floor, the first time you're on it, seems really confusing.
Except for Showboat.
Right, except for Showboat, where you can see the entirety of the casino floor from anywhere on it, because it is... I mean, how high do you think those ceilings were? It's just like a huge open space.
Super bright.
Yeah.
Which I loved. I'll forever miss Showboat.
But, I mean, I think, I'd been to Harrah's probably like 5 or 6 times before I finally became comfortable and like felt like I knew where I was going in that casino.
Yeah, I still find Harrah's very confusing. I still find Borgata...
Same thing with Borg, honestly. Yeah. It took me a long time to really feel like I know where I am and
I feel like
where I'm going.
Layout-wise, they're similar, Harrah's and Borgata. with kind of like that bar in the middle, and then
Well, Borg is like more of a circle. Like Harrah's is like a rectangle, right? It's like longer than it is wide or something. I don't know.
I can't even wrap my spatial awareness isn't even good enough to wrap my head around that. Like I know that there's a bar in the middle of both of them, and that there's some like restaurants on the outskirts. That's about it. And at some point I end up down a tunnel, and I'm like looking at a pool that's not actually a pool at Harrah's, and that's pretty much it. That's all I get. Like, oh, here's Viking Kitchen or whatever the heck it is. I never have any idea where I'm going at Harrah's.
I know the cooking class or whatever.
Same thing
whatever
that
place is.
Like we'll get separated, and I'll text you like, hey, where are you? And you'll say I'm across from the poker room, and I'll need 20 minutes to figure out where that is when it's maybe the biggest poker room in the country.
Yeah, I think it is.
So that's that's probably more on me. Maybe I shouldn't take those points off of Golden Nugget when I
Anyway, I would never be across from the poker room. I would be down in the cafeteria next to the poker room eating Fatburger.
Eating Fatburger.
Yes.
So
the only one on the East Coast that I know of.
Is that true? That feels like it can't be true, but I guess it's.
I think it's true.
I think there might be one in New York, but I'm not gonna,
Maybe. We shouldn't look it up that way. It would remove the magic from the state.
The one in New York closed, so you're looking good.
All right.
It didn't last very long, 2 years. So,
like me some Fatburger.
Golden Nugget. What did we do at Golden Nugget though?
We played some slot golf.
So we played slot golf, which is something I found on the 500 by Midnight Facebook group. Somebody posted the rules of slot golf, and always one for weird games. We've played some baseball card poker in the hotel room in Vegas, which I won't get into.
Well, for a little bit anyway.
Far too nerdy. Yeah, for a little bit. Well, no, we played once we left the room where we were getting yelled at by somebody who had a flight 14 hours late.
At 4 p.m. the next day.
We found another room and we were fine. So
we had the latest flight out of everyone in our group.
So yeah, we were in Vegas playing for a friend's bachelor party, and we had a plan to cut our losses on gambling and play some baseball card poker, where you rip open some baseball card packs and basically, whoever has the best player wins. And then there are a bunch of rules about, if you get an Oriole or something, because we're Orioles fans, you have to drink. And we tried to go back to our sweet room in Caesars that we got upgraded to, and that overlooked the Bellagio fountains. And our friend was in bed at midnight and was very, very upset with us for being too loud. And so we got a lot of, seriously, guys, come on, I got a flight in the morning. And meanwhile, his flight was like 4 p.m., 4 hours later than anyone else's. So we ended up in another dude's room and played until like 7 in the morning. And then at 7 in the morning with the sun coming up, he iced me, because this is when icing was still a thing. So I had to chug a Smirnoff Ice, and I woke up the next morning, the day of my flight, feeling like pure hell. But that's not what this story's about. So
I'll have everyone know that while this was all happening, well, I was there for baseball poker, but my hotel room was in Harrah's, Las Vegas, which is a great casino.
Your favorite
Not
place.
like crappy. Yeah.
Not like
the best place
not like
on Earth.
Caesars.
The Chipotle next to the Harrah's in Las Vegas is my favorite place.
So you have the Chipotle next to Harrah's, and I have the Bally's bus terminal. So
Yeah.
any respect that anybody might have had for us coming into this is gone.
You shouldn't have it.
Yeah, that's true. You never should have had it in the first place.
No.
So we played slot golf, which is basically you choose a slot, you basically pick whoever gets to make the first choice, and they choose a machine and a denomination, and they keep spinning until they win any amount. It can be a cent, it can be less than your bet, and then that's their score for that hole. And then everybody goes, and the person who wins that hole gets to pick the next machine and the next domination. So you do that for 18 holes, preferably with a couple of beer stops in there. And at the end of all that, the winner gets, you put in $1 for every hole. So the winner of each hole gets $1 for that hole. And so I think the top winner from our group ended up making a whopping like $4, and the biggest loser lost something like $3, except for the slot play.
Oh,
So you're what?
Yeah, right.
Because your buddy Zach hit a $300
Right.
on a quarter 3-reel machine.
Right.
So he was fine, even though
I don't think it was a quarter. I think it was $1.
Was it $1?
I think so.
Either way.
Yeah, he didn't win those 1,200 credits or whatever. It was 300.
But still, a decent payout.
Right. No, nothing.
Still, nobody's scoffing at $300. You
got crushed.
So for the most part, people were picking like these 60-line 1-cent machines, right? Which is lame. And I was the first one to do it, so I can't talk. But it's lame for this purpose because you win on almost every spin. So, like, everybody's tying for a hole-in-one or two because, you hit line 28 for 10 credits on a 60-credit bet. So if I was doing it over, I would either say you have to win more than your bet, for it to count, or just ban 50-line machines. Just ban.
That would make it a lot rougher if you have to win at least your bet.
Oh, yeah. And it should be a lot rougher. The fact that, I say that as you who didn't lose
pretty
money.
rough for some of us.
But as far as the actual gambling between the players was just meaningless. So
yeah. No, yeah. It basically only mattered how you actually did on the slot machine. It didn't matter how many strokes you got.
Oh, no. So you were the one person who had a just epically long spin.
Yes.
So what?
Yes.
What did you get hurt for? It was a machine you picked, right?
It was a machine I picked. I think it was a $2 machine, which I think was the max bet, right?
Right. Oh yeah. So we set a max bet just so that it wouldn't hurt too bad.
I think I was down something like $60-some on that machine before I finally got a 4-credit win or something, or 2-credit win.
So I'd say no 60-line machines. One of the fun things about the game is everybody chanting rebuy every time somebody gets close, right? 'Cause you're just carrying your little
right
from machine to machine. So you start probably with like $20, and as people are getting down, your friends are not hoping for you to win, right? They are not hoping for you to get
they want you to go broke, literally broke.
Machine. Yeah, so everybody's chanting rebuy. So you can just imagine us. We had 6 or 7 dudes walking around the Golden Nugget on a very crowded Saturday afternoon, and 6 of us huddle up to like the Monopoly machine and are watching one person play 30 cents a spin and are like yelling at each other about this, which just looks ridiculous to everyone, including the eye in the sky, because at one point someone came over to us and asked us all for IDs, and we're all over 30. I think, am I the youngest at 32?
No, Zach is a year behind.
Okay, so still everybody's 30.
Was 31.
And we got ID'd because you can't have 6 dudes staring at a 30-cent spin without people being like these guys who are standing here drinking like Yingling and Miller Lite and playing some weird game where they're yelling at each other over 30-cent slots. Like, there's nobody of age would do that. And if we were at the Tropicana, I don't think they would even ID'd us. Well, they didn't ID anyone at the Tropicana. I think they would have just not just assumed and not said anything. I think other casinos would have just you just have to leave. Like, you're distracting the person playing the Ellen slots.
The people actually gambling.
Oh, there were a couple times.
Assholes.
Yes, and there were a couple times where people would get up and leave the machine, and I felt bad for.
Well, I mean, some people were not the best at picking slots. Like, they'd pick the slot machine in between, 3 other people playing.
Right, so that would be the rule, is no, shoehorning yourself into a machine that has 2 people next to it. You gotta have some space if you're gonna horn in with 7 dudes.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Although, the stories are good, I guess.
Yeah, it was good.
So that was Golden Nugget. It was okay. I don't really feel a need to go back.
So here's the real question, though, Craig. You say you don't feel a need to go back to Golden Nugget. Do you feel a need to play slot golf again?
If I were really hurting for a trip, and we had all the revamped rules, and it was 9 holes instead of 18.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
And there was some kind of drinking element as well.
not buying $5 beers from the bar in Golden Nugget.
That's but then it's so complicated.
It's not worth it.
It's probably not worth it. It took a long time.
I'm glad we did it once, and it's an interesting story, but I don't think I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, unless I was there on like a 6-day trip or something, Vegas or something.
Like Vegas.
I don't really see much need to play soccer.
Right.
So that's out. No. So another thing we did on our trip that I at least was super, super excited about as someone who really loved Nashville when I went was the playground.
Uh-huh.
So the playground used to be the casino, used to be the Caesars Pier Shops, and just struggled, and they looked for a buyer forever, and finally Bart Blatstein, a famous Philadelphia developer, bought it and had big plans, right? He's going to redevelop it as a Nashville/Memphis bar scene called T Street, where it looks like you're outside and there's just a bunch of bars and you can go from one bar to the next and see live music and drink, and it's going to be great. And so we went on a Saturday night, and it was very sad.
It was completely empty, but it wasn't only that it was completely empty, right? Like, literally, we were the only people in the entire run of, it's like 10 bars down on the lower floor.
Right.
But all the bars were open as well. And I don't know, it wasn't just terrible. It was like really uncomfortable to be in there.
Yeah, I mean,
as literally the only people.
It was like 20-1 staff to patrons. And every bar was empty. And so, I should have taken a huge warning sign going in, because if you go to the Playground's website, they're promising live music at all these bars every night.
Well,
and you go to the website and it just says, like, no upcoming events.
Right. In their defense, not that there's really much defense, but it was like 6 p.m. when we were there. And
it was on the early side.
Who knows if it was midnight or 11 p.m. or something. Maybe it would have been a little different. Because the space is actually pretty cool, I think. Just, you actually need people there to make it not awful.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could be cool. I think it could be cool. It was a Friday night. It was not a Saturday because it was before we checked into Harrah's. So 6 is a tough sell.
Yeah, it's a tough sell. I mean, I think it's the kind of place where if there were, whatever the required number of people are to make it not awkward there, I think I would have probably enjoyed it a lot if I was 22, which is, I think, what they're going for.
Yeah, I would
not
have
us as 32-year-olds.
Yeah, I would have liked it to be, like, neoned out. Give me the fake sort of, like, stars like you get in the Forum shops at Caesars, and, that Vegas is just, I don't know why everybody has to have a fake sky in the ceiling. Like, that would be cool, depending on your definition of cool. They have new management in place for a lot of the venues. So they've just recently, within the last week or so, Bart Blatstein has said, okay, I never really intended to manage these long term, so I'm putting these other guys who operate stuff near his Piazza development in Philadelphia, Brian Nagel, I think, and Brian Pugh, are operating several 39N, which is the big music venue, Bose, the Piano Bar, and the Riviera Beer Garden, which has the Riviera, one of the Riviera signs from Riviera Las Vegas. And then another operator is going to run Monkey Bar, Purdy's, 1921, and Tag. And then a third operator is going to run the Bluey, which is just a horrible name. In the whole group of terribly named bars, that's the worst one. But
it's bad.
When I saw that, I just thought, thank goodness someone else is managing this, because it needs something.
Yeah, people, really.
So one of the things that Blatstein said to a Philly.com reporter, which I think is the Inquirer's website, or is at least a partner, he said, Rome wasn't built in a day, but T Street was built in a day. And it was built in 10 weeks, basically. They got it up and running, and it looked like they got it up and running in 10 weeks when we were there, right? I mean, it looked like a huge rush job.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, like I said, I think the space has a lot of potential, and who knows? Maybe at 11 o'clock on Saturday there are people there, and it's a pretty cool place to be if you're 22, but it certainly didn't show well to us when we were the only people there at 6 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah, I want to believe that it was just a phase one, and that with new management, they're going to come in, they're going to pump some more money into it and make it really cool. But it's really hard to sort of make that sell when it looked like it looked. I mean, it was really bad. So I think hopefully with the new management, they'll come in, they'll get more music acts. I mean, that was the biggest thing to me, is just these music acts. The promise, when you go to Nashville, for instance, you can walk into any bar and there's a good cover band playing, there's cheap beer, and it's just a good time. It's just, to me, it's like a great drinking town. It's almost the perfect sort of relaxed experience. And in this place, it was like, you walk down, all the bars are dead empty. It's kind of slapped together. There's the Riviera sign at the one end, that's taken from the Riviera, which you think, oh, that's cool, it's from the Riviera, but then you start to realize, like, no, they're just slapping signs that they found from anywhere, right? Like the Trinity place that we love so much, the Irish bar, they just took that sign and put it up. Like, there's no relation there as far as I can tell between the two. It's like, oh, free signage, done.
Well, and it was even worse because when we saw it, we're like, holy shit, it's back open. Because we used to go there quite a bit for
every trip,
dinner and drinks for, when we were down in Atlantic City, and 3 or 4 years ago when we used to go all the time. And so we were bummed when it closed because, I don't know. It was just sad, and, while it's the pier and everything was closing, it was still sad for us. And we saw it was open, and we're like, holy crap, and then it was just a bar.
Yeah,
with no one in it.
Just like every other bar there. They do claim to have, like, similar food items, but I don't trust it. I'm nervous about it. So hopefully they get that together. Blatstein, obviously, his reputation is really good, and he's done that, so hopefully that works out. So speaking of Blatstein, he has bought Showboat, or is in the process of closing on Showboat.
Right. Is it actually in the process? Last I heard it was rumored, but...
So it's delayed because I think he's going to have to pay Stockton University another $1 million plus some amount for every month that it takes to close it. Thousands of dollars for every month that it takes to close this deal. So, you'd think you've got this guy who's buying up, he bought up the playground and he sounded really confident. Now he's buying Showboat. He tried to buy down by the South Inlet some space, some land. And you'd think, oh, that's a great thing, right? Like, here's this guy who's really rich, who's a legendary, Philadelphia developer trying to develop Atlantic City. And then you've got Glenn Straub up at Revel, who's a big developer, and he's bought Revel. He tried to buy Showboat. He tried to buy Baderfield. And you think, oh man, these two guys fighting it out for Atlantic City space, that says that's a really good sign for the future of the city, right? I feel like that should make me more confident than it does.
Yeah. So, Straub is completely crazy, right? I don't think that's up for discussion or up for debate. I think he's probably crazy like a fox, and I think he's probably going to end up making money on his Revel transaction.
How? With what?
Selling it to someone else.
You think he'll resell it?
I think so.
So when he first sort of spouted out all these ideas of it's going to be a water park, it's going to be a genius whatever medical complex, it's going to be a college for geniuses, and all that stuff, and we're going to have high-speed ferries, I was thinking, this is all cool that he has all these ideas. I bet he just opens it, and it looks exactly the same as Revel, and it's just a casino hotel.
Yep.
Now I'm thinking he's never going to open it. And he's going to tear it down and sell it for parts, a la the Fontainebleau in Las Vegas with Carl Icahn, which he's done, which Straub has done, right? So it does make me nervous that's the way it's going to go. And, it's not like Revel's going to mean anything to anybody. It's not like people 20 years from now are going to be like, oh, I can't believe they tore down Revel, the way that people still sort of pine for the Stardust.
Right.
But the fact that it was only open for 2 years.
No, they can't tear that building down. I mean, it's the nicest building in all of Atlantic City, arguably.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, there's no way that tearing that down is going to be the end result.
So yeah, I mean, I was optimistic. I was hoping for some good news between Showboat and Revel, and there just hasn't been much. Showboat, Blatstein has said he's milling over both gambling and non-gambling uses. Obviously, there's the competing clauses.
Or the two covenants that are in...
So Caesar says it can't be a casino. They put a deed restriction on it saying...
Right, and the Taj says it has to be a casino.
Yeah, and the Taj has the covenant saying it has to be a casino. So, to me, I mean, I think that they could fight... It would not be that... I don't want to say it wouldn't be that hard. But I think you could fight one of those two, right? Like, you could go fight the Caesars thing and say it's an anti-competition measure, and it's, against the better whatever, the greater good of the city of Atlantic City to have this deed restriction, and so we're going to fight it.
Right.
It would cost tons of money.
So, do you think it is? Do you think it is against the good of Atlantic City for the Showboat to not be a casino?
I think it's not necessarily to not be a casino, but I think having the restriction that it can't be a casino. Because that artificially deflates the value of the property.
I mean, so we've already talked about the numbers some earlier in the podcast. And, as a whole, the numbers are, if you look at each casino's numbers year over year, it looks like they're doing all right. But if you remember that, 3 or 4 casinos have closed down in that time, I mean, it's actually not that good. So I'm not sure if it is necessarily a good thing for the Showboat to be a casino, as much as I loved it.
Yeah, I mean,
you know that I did love it.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I think I'm coming at this from a point of optimism of kind of like, hoping that if you get a summer where the numbers go up, people will say, well, there are 8 casinos, it can take a 9th, kind of thing. And that maybe that's just too optimistic.
Right. I mean, at this juncture, there's nothing that I've seen that makes me believe that they need to reopen any casinos in Atlantic City. So though, like I said, Revel should be open, but something else will probably close down to offset that. Most likely the Taj.
So back to the Taj. So I've got a couple. Before we wrap up, I've got a couple businessy questions for you. Since
all right,
you're finished with your MBA. I'm still.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm 25, 26 of the way through mine. So Taj has just been running into the ground now. What do you think Icon's move is here? What is he trying to do by just sort of stringing this thing out and threatening to close that is clearly just draining business out of it by threatening to close all the time?
I mean, so, just as a spoiler to everyone else, we talked about this, a couple days ago. And my theory was that the only thing I could imagine is that he's just trying to keep it open to sell it to someone else. I mean, maybe someone similar to, if you remember back a few years ago, when Atlantic Club was up for sale and it was actually going to be bought by PokerStars, I think, or one of the large, offshore poker sites. And what I was thinking is it has to be something like that because, he came out and he said it was going to close, at the end of last year, and it didn't. And I'm sure it's just hemorrhaging money now. And that's all I could, figure out. But I think you have a theory that might even be closer to the truth. So if you want to talk about that.
So I'm figuring that it's a union busting move. And basically, and we've seen him now win, right, in court against the unions. So he also owns Trop. And so my feeling is he's using this basically as a threat and saying, I'm going to close it to get concessions from the union. And once he gets all those concessions, he will be able to take advantage of them at Tropicana, and then he'll be able to sell the Taj and not have to worry about it anymore. But basically, he's hoping that the threat of all those jobs being gone from the union is enough to get those concessions. And that's
Right.
the total cynical view. I'm totally aware of that. I'll probably bring the cynical side a lot here. But that's kind of what my theory is on that.
I mean, it's very possible that it could. And in his defense, he's spent a lot of money at the Trop, and he's
True.
made it a lot nicer than it used to be.
Yeah,
So,
I'm a big Trop fan.
I know. You love those room and a Starbucks deal.
And and the Boogie Nights. I love the Boogie Nights. Oh, I'm definitely going to Boogie Nights in January. So that's Taj. Showboat, we talked a little bit about. That's getting delayed. Blatstein's weighing his options. His quote about Showboat was, "I found it's always healthier not to rush." He told this to Associated Press reporter Wayne Perry, who's like the guy for reporting on casino business news in Atlantic City. And he said, "You rush to get the property, but then you don't rush on the decisions on what to do with it." So, okay, that's great for Showboat, but what happened with Playground then? Because that's exactly the opposite, right? So I'm nervous because I feel like I should be confident that he's going to do something awesome with Showboat, and I'm just like looking at Playground and thinking, oh man, what is this going to be like T Street, North or whatever? I mean, what's going to happen here? So I'm nervous about that. But no, so little's come out about Showboat and what the plan is for it that it's all just a blank slate at this point.
All right. So, with Showboat down, so what do you think in 1 year the Revel is going to be? Open or closed? And is it going to be a casino if it's open?
It's so hard to tell because I felt like it was so close to opening. Like, it looks like it should be so close to opening. But Straub has fought with everyone. He's fought with the energy company ACR. He's fought with the...
Rightfully so, from what I understand of that deal.
Right. Which I kind of wonder if he's waiting... Like, they're apparently being foreclosed on, ACR. Which they have no input. They have no income. Of course it's being foreclosed on. So I'm wondering if he's kind of waiting them out. But he seems to have a lot of harebrained schemes, and it makes me worried that it's just going to delay forever. So I would have said, like, yes, easily it'll be open for the summer, but now I'm just not sure. I'm going to still say yes.
He said it was going to be open for Memorial Day, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which, was 6 months ago.
So I'm saying yes by the slimmest of margins, like 51%. It's open, it's a casino. It's nothing else that he's claiming it's going to be.
All right.
What about you? What do you think happens with Revel?
I don't think it'll be open in a year. I think it'll be open at some point, but nothing that I've seen in the last 6 months makes me believe it'll be in that short of a time frame.
Do you think it will be open with him as the owner?
I don't think so. I think he's looking to sell it.
Okay, so I agree with that. So I'll pose you one more question then. So I brought this up to you earlier also. Brookfield Asset Management, who owns Hard Rock Las Vegas.
Yep. Who made the original bid to take Revel before all the ACR shit basically at the fan, right?
Right. So they wanted to buy Revel.
Yep. They actually bought it, right?
Yeah. Basically had the high bid.
And then backed out.
And Straub got it for less. So do you think basically Straub is saying we're going to get a buyer at enough to just make a profit and get out? I mean, it seems kind of like that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think, so we need to wait and see what happens with ACR, because as you said, they're going through, bankruptcy stuff. And I know that, as far as I know, Straub is still tied up with them, among other people, mostly them, in court. I don't know if they've ever actually fully resolved, the power situation in that building.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff needs to clear itself out. And, honestly, like what happened before, Brookfield really wanted that property except for the power deal. And that's what sunk it for them.
So Hard Rock International, which is not the same thing as Brookfield, that is the Florida Seminole tribe, wanted to open a boutique hotel in Atlantic City.
Yep.
Down
South of the Atlantic Club.
South of the Atlantic Club, where Stockton College University is now apparently going to build a $200 million campus.
Yep.
They wanted to open a 200-room hotel, which is lower than the minimum number of rooms. And basically, New Jersey said, we're going to make an exception because there's a glut of rooms already. We don't need the minimum of 500 rooms or whatever the minimum. I think it was 500 is the minimum number of rooms to have a casino. Is the sheer size of Revel a deterrent to a future buyer? Like, even though you can get Revel for cheaper than you can build a 200 hotel room hotel, which sounds insane, does the fact that you then have to manage 1,400 rooms deter someone from buying it?
Well, do you though? I mean, you don't have to manage 1,400 rooms. You have to, run the AC in 1,400 rooms to make sure there's not mold issues, but there's nothing preventing you from only getting housekeeping for,
the top.
Eight floors of rooms
right.
or something like that.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess the bigger deterrent is...
I mean, there's some fixed costs with a building that size, but, you can cut down on costs quite a bit by only having a fewer number of rooms than that open, if that's what is going to make financial sense for your company.
Does that... But you don't think that looks so bad that you've got a 40-story hotel with only 8 floors available?
But do people know?
I don't know. I guess I'm overestimating people's sort of how informed they are. Because Water Club at Borgata was not open off season. I don't know the latest on that. Maybe it's still not open off season during the week. So,
but how would the average traveler know? They know that they're on floor whatever, near the top of the hotel probably, and they're happy about that. And do they know that there's no one on the 8th floor? Do they know that there's no one on the 12th floor?
That's a good question. I would say
probably not.
Probably other than us and the few people who are following the casino industry, they probably don't even recognize it. And it probably, in a lot of ways, that probably is true. That was probably true at Atlantic Club before it closed.
I mean, honestly, it's running the air conditioner and all that is probably pretty expensive for all those rooms. But
right.
You don't need to actually plan on having people occupy a bunch of those floors.
Well, I think it's as good a place as any to wrap up, since there's no more news coming on Showboat or Revel in the next week or so. Hopefully, there will be something interesting to talk about next time we do this.
So when do you think that should be, Craig?
That's a good question.
I'll put you on the spot with a meta question.
What are we doing? Every month? Every 2 weeks? Weekly's clearly not. There's just not enough news in it.
No, there's not enough news
every week.
Yeah. Well, we could see. Maybe every month.
Yeah. Let's start with monthly, and then
plan for
it
that.
Gets ramped up, and if we're going every month to Atlantic City, then clearly we'll have to do more than once a month.
Right.
So that's
I don't think there's much of a threat of that with our children and all.
No. So I just want to thank everybody for listening. You can find this at doforawin.com, along with our excellent articles. We've kept this site populated for years now, and we're finally putting out some podcast content to go along with our excellent written content.
Right.
So we've basically parked this domain and have done almost nothing with it, except for a couple snarky comments and a couple of these business posts.
I mean, to be honest and to talk more about some meta stuff, Atlantic City might be a bit of an underserved market. I mean, while, it's obviously less important in the grand scheme of things to the average traveler than Vegas for a lot of reasons, a lot of them self-inflicted by Atlantic City. There still are a lot of people who go to Atlantic City a lot and enjoy it. And even more than that, there still are a lot of people employed in Atlantic City who really, it's how they make their living. And it's certainly important to them, even though there's a lot fewer people employed in Atlantic City now than there used to be.
Yeah, and everybody wants to talk about the difference between its peak and now, but it's still a $2.5 billion market. I mean, that's still a big market. So that's some good optimism, I think, to end on. So again, I'm Craig Stone. With me, Kyle Askin. This is the Do for a Win podcast. Thank you for listening.
All right. Thanks, guys. See you later.